some relations as soon as possible. You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell will allow our only daughter to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning. For goodness sake, Algie, don't play that ghastly tune. How idiotic are you?
Did it go all right, old boy? You don't mean to say Glenn will refuse you?
Oh, as far as she is concerned, we are engaged. Your mother is perfectly unbearable.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolyn? You know, I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algie? Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression on Mama's face, I fear we never shall.
Dear Gwendolyn.
The story of her romantic origin, as related to my Mama with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the fibers in my nature. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Wilton, Hertfordshire.
There's a good postal service, I suppose? It may be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily. Algie, you may turn around now.
You will let me see you to your carriage, madam darling?
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
Lane, tomorrow I'm going thundering.
Yes, sir.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Lane, you're a perfect pessimist.
I'll do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
Cecily, we'll start with your German grammar. Right open it at page 15.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language.
You must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter all the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them. I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
And how are we this morning? I hope Cecily will not to the 10th.
Oh, I am afraid I am.
Oh, that's a strange. Were I fortunate enough to be mistress of people, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees, yes. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, will not return from town yet. Oh, well, we do not expect him until Monday afternoon. I think, Chasuble, I will have a stroll with you. Pleasure. Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence.
Horrid political economy.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven down from the station.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
No, he went off in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray, ask Mr. Ernest Worthing to come here.
Yes, miss.
I have never met any really wicked person before.
Ah, you must be Cecily, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, and you are Uncle Jack's brother, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, Cousin Cecily, you mustn't think that I will do.
If you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner.
Yes, of course, I have been rather reckless.
I am glad to hear it. Although I am not quite sure how you are here at all. You are immigrating. Uncle Jack has just gone up to buy your outfits.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfits.
But he's going to buy it, you know, for Australia. He is sending you there after all.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said you'd have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Oh, well, the accounts I've received of Australia and the next world aren't particularly encouraging. That is why I wanted to reform you. Make that your mission, if you don't mind.
Won't you come in?
Thank you.
You do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Mr. Worthing, we did not expect you till Monday afternoon.
I have arrived sooner than I expected.
I trust the scholar has not been taken some terrible men here.
My brother,
More shameful deaths and extravagance.
dead.
Your brother Ernest dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson to him! I trust he will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolence. You would no doubt wish to make some slight allusion to his judge to get the religion next Sunday.
Ah, Dr. Choswell, I suppose you know how to christen, all right?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I've often spoken to the lower classes about it, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
But is there any particular infant in whom you're interested in, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was unmarried.
No, the fact is I'd like to be christened myself, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely you've been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
At what hour would you wish the ceremony to be performed?
What about 5:30 do?
Admirably. And now, dear Mr. Worthing, I must no longer intrude into your house of sorrow. I merely beg of you not to watch bowed down by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to be a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! Oh, I am so pleased to see you back. Do look happy. Oh, I have got such a surprise for you. Good evening is in the dining room. Your brother!
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about a half hour ago. I'll tell him to come out.
These are very joyful tidings.
After being so resigned to his loss, I find the sudden return peculiarly distressing.
My brother's in the dining room. I think it's perfectly absurd.
Brother John, I've come down from town to tell you that I'm very sorry for all the trouble I've given you, and that I intend to lead a better life for the future.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. Having coming down here is disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, whom he doesn't visit so often.
Oh, he's been talking about Bunbury, has he?
I expected a more enthusiastic look.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you. Never, never, never.
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
I think we should leave the two brothers together.
Cecily, you come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
Dr. Alvin, let's get out of this place as soon as possible. I don't allow any Bunbury here.
I put Mr. Ernest into the room next to yours. I suppose that is all right.
What? Man, go to the dog friends. Mr. Ernest has such a big call back to town.
Yes, sir.
I have not been called back to town at all.
Your duty as gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
Quite understand that.
Cecily's quite a darling.
You are not to talk of these cut like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like her clothes. I find that it is perfectly childish to be in deep mourning for a man who's staying with you in your house as a guest.
You are certainly not staying with his guest or anything else. Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct is an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. I hope you have a pleasant trip back to town. This Bunbury, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I think it's been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that's everything. But I must hear before I go. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me. He's going to send it away.
Then you don't part.
I'm afraid so.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Merriman, for 5 minutes.
Yes, it is.
Cecily, I hope I shall not offend you in any way to state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I can only look at it. May I?
Oh, no. You see, it is simply a very young girl's collection of her thoughts and impressions and consequentially meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I hope you will order a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down for dictation. Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell cough.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell it to come back around next week at the same hour. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew you were staying on.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care for anybody in the whole world but you. Cecily, I love you. You'll learn me, won't you?
You silly boy, of course. Why, we have been engaged for the past 3 months.
But how do we become engaged?
On the 14th of February last. Worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I was determined to end it one way or the other. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. The next day, I bought this ring in your name that I promised you always to wear. Oh, and this is the box in which I keep all your letters.
My letters, my dear child, I've never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest.
I remember only too well that I was forced to write your own letters for you. I wrote 3 times a week and sometimes oftener. The 3 letters you wrote me after I'd broken off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that I can hardly read them now without crying a little.
Why did you break it off?
It would have hardly been a really serious engagement if it had not been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out.
What a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
Dear old boy.
Cecily, please promise me you won't break it off again.
I don't think I could break it off now that I've actually met you. And then, of course, there is always the question of your name.
Yes,